Hey, Hound Dogs, I'm David
And
Hankins,
I'm Paul
and
Hankins.
welcome to On the Air with Power Squared. This week we have a illustrator, comic book uh, writer, Steve Lafler on the show. Hi, Steve.
Hello, how you guys doing tonight?
Pretty
Great.
good, pretty good. So you're up
All
in
right.
you're up in Santa Rosa.
Yeah. Sitting here about an hour north of San Francisco, and yeah, kind of a pretty just mellow place and not bad of a place to do comics.
Yeah, we actually had my wife's family has is up in Santa Rosa and Sebastopol.
Oh, okay, yeah,
So you had a bunch
yes,
of
I like it. I like it up here. I lived in Oakland. Prior I lived in Oakland for 20 years, and I love Oakland too. But yeah, it's kind of like I don't know. Used to be less traffic here.
um, did you? I know you had a lot of rain a few weeks ago. Were you guys affected by that?
Yeah, no, I mean we were affected by it in the sense that it effectively ends the fire season and the worry of
Yeah.
the bad air.
You're hanging up.
2017 through 2020, we took off. We weren't officially evacuated, but we'd go get clear of the fires for a few days all of
Hmm.
those years.
Hmm. Okay, you kind of broke up there a little. You actually answered our call looking for guests, which we
Yeah.
appreciate.
Oh
So I hope hope this works out for everybody.
yeah.
um, so tell us about yourself. I know you've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, yeah, I've been at it for a while. So, yeah, I just published a graphic. I guess I'll call it a graphic novella. It's a 72-page book called 1956 Movie Star, and the whole idea here it's set in the mid 50s in Manhattan, and it's kind of in some ways an homage to my dad, who the beginning of his career was kind of set there. Parts of his career was set there,
uh,
and so it's fiction. It's not really my dad's story, but it's kind of like a nod to him.
was 56 an important year for him, or?
Yeah, that was the year where he was promoted to the job. He was a young guy. He was probably like 29. He became the chief buyer of a small chain of upstate department stores. And as he told me, when I was old enough to understand, in 1956, that was his first job where he made $10,000 a year. And if you made that much in that at that time, you were kind of like a made man. You would be able to afford a house, support your family, buy a car, maybe two, and you know,
Yeah.
different different days economically and sociologically, everything. But anyway, so that was the mark he made that year, and
Okay.
a year before I was born actually. And he was
You're you broke up there. What'd you say? It was the year before.
Yeah, okay. That was yeah, the 1956 was the year that, he hit the 10K in income mark. So that was a big deal to him.
Okay. You in the story, I believe you. I have not read it yet. I did subscribe to your Kickstarter, but
Yeah.
you talk about a trans model.
Yeah, there's a character in there called Ramona Lopez. And so this is a character who their dream is to be a model and an actress. And, they're like a trans woman. The idea is they're a Latino person from Texas, Ramon, who goes to New York City, and he's Ramona. He falls into it's hard to get into the modeling or the acting business. So he ends up falling to being a kind of like a slightly high end hooker. And so that's part of the world that this is set in. Um, then there's the jazz clubs in Midtown Manhattan in the 1950s. You have people like Miles Davis and John Coltrane, uh, and other like incredible musicians, not only from bebop but other parts of jazz, playing nightly. And this is like the part of the heart of the musical culture of the 50s. That's what the book is about too.
Okay.
Then you have these people who are buyers for a chain of department stores who come in, they interact with all these characters. And so, it's about their relationships, their dynamics, their dreams really, and how they're trying to achieve them. And I throw in a couple bad guys, mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, something. Yeah. So is Ramona is the main character, or just a character in the book?
Now, the first one was like maybe like a little over, between 60 and 70 pages. This one's a little longer. So Ramona was the main character of the first part of the story. You meet the characters, and you see the settings through the lens of an evening on the town, and maybe the next couple of days, mainly through the lens of Ramona.
Okay.
And then the second one, it's narrowed down to Ramona's girlfriend, Nikki, who's another. Nikki's a writer who was also on the streets, so
Okay.
That's my part of my conceit about it. But Nikki's actually I guess what you would call a cis woman, a born a woman.
Right.
And then there's Jack. Jack is a buyer for McCurdy's department store, which is kind of the stand-in for my character, the avatar for my dad. And then there's Susie, who's another buyer who his rival, but they kind of got the hots for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the four main characters. Then there's a second echelon of characters that are, have important parts, but they're not the people I'm really focused on. It's tempting to me to like really flesh out the backstories a little bit more, but I want to move the plot forward a little bit, so I focus on those four right now.
Just to bring it back to us, 1956 is the year this university that we made up is founded. That was 1956.
Yeah, I know. I was checking that out. I was, I've been spying on you guys here and there. So. But I'm looking at it, and I'm like going like, this is like their own college. Community college is a cool institution. I mean, we live like about 5 blocks from Santa Rosa Community College.
Right.
It's cool.
Well, we just thought it was sort of kind of a nice middle place to sort of start a story, not necessarily have a 4-year school. It fits in with the characters.
I like how you weave it into your kind of like the profile of your characters in your book, and and obviously it's like the world you create, part of marketing. So, it gives like an added dimension to what you're doing really nicely.
Well, thanks. Now, speaking of college, you went to the UMass Amherst?
Yeah, I went to UMass Amherst back in the dawn of prehistory.
Back before television.
I got out of there in December of '79. But what I did there, I mean, I was an art student. I got a Bachelor of Fine Art, which, that and whatever, back then, that and a buck gets you a cup of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
I did a daily strip for the Massachusetts Daily Collegian called Aluminum Foil. The conceit of that is that Gerald is a foil head. He just has a foil hat over his head all the time with a little eye hole in it. And his best friend is named Benba, who is like kind of like a big fat scarecrow who always wears a tie, and he doesn't have eyes. He has holes in his head, and he just has always smiling in it, but his mouth is stitched shut. He's a scarecrow, and I mean, I'm not quite sure where all that came from, but it definitely was there in a strong way, and it was great fun. I mean, the paper went out to 20,000 a day, and I had a daily strip for 4 years, and so I kind of like that's what I really did in college, and I phoned in my coursework a little bit for my degree. I mean, I did a good enough job.
Did you want to do a daily comic when you got out, or had you had your fill?
Well, I would have been happy to do any kind of comic when I got out. A daily, comic books. I mean, I grew up kind of being a Marvel geek, and then I got into the undergrounds. But in 1979, 1980, the comic industry was at a kind of a low point, and the daily strips were very hard to break into. And I had no editor for 4 years, except they tell me, could you correct your spelling, please? And which is good. But I was spoiled rotten. I was not about to like start kowtowing to an editor. So I sent pages. I submitted some strip samples to the syndicates. I sent some pages to Marvel and to DC. But I knew I wasn't going to be a superhero. I wanted to draw Spider-Man when I was 12, but when I was like 18, I just wanted to draw whatever I felt like. So, the bargains I made with myself was, one, I would publish my own books, which I began doing much straight away, and also I knew how to screen print. So I'm like, well, I got to support myself. So I started a wholesale T-shirt printing business, and it turns out that was a good time to start that type of business. And over the years, I built it up to be kind of a fire-breathing monster, and I had a shop, and I had printers working for me and stuff. And, it was cool. It was great fun. I had some great clients. I had this obscure band called The Residents, who were really wild, and I had them for 9 years. I did Margaret Cho, the comedian, did her stuff for years, and at Apple I did, and Sony Music, and had the Epic and Columbia record labels, and maybe what another one I forget. OK Records. So I got to do tons of shirts, and that was fun. And it was fun to have my own position of needing to carve out time for comics.
Right.
There were times where I got enough comics sales going to do it full time. And I'd kind of like step back from the commercial work. And then there's other times where, the sales would go up, the sales would go down. So, 1986, there was a huge black and white boom, and they went up, so I was selling a ton of books then, but, boy, it just crashed really hard, really fast. So it came mostly back down to earth straight away. And, at a nice enough level, but not like the paying every bill level.
Right. Yeah. So when you were doing this T-shirts, were you actually doing the designs, or were you just?
Yeah, sure. I've designed a million T-shirts, but most of these, Margaret Cho, I'll give you an example. Mostly supplied her own designs. She had some great designers and great ideas. And when I first got hooked up with her, Adrienne Tomine, who was a very, very well-known graphic artist and cartoonist. I knew Adrian back in Berkeley when he was still a college student, and he was around. A lot of cartoonists around the East Bay then, and so Adrian just goes, "Hey, Cho needs a shirt. You want to do the printing?" Because he had done a design. So I'm like, "Oh yeah." So that's a typical way. Like the Residents, they always did their own designs. The singer is this guy. They're supposed to have secret identities, and they wear those giant eyeballs over their head. But the guy, it's Homer Flynn. I think you're from Texas. He's from Texas.
No, right.
Homer Flynn. But he's an incredible designer. The guy's just, everything he touches, he's brilliant. He's a real wise guy and funny and like very dark. He's brilliant.
Okay. So, in looking at your profile on your website,
I lost you.
Yeah, you talk about the House Trilogy.
Yeah. Well, that was I had this all through the 80s. I was working on a character called Dog Boy, and in the 90s, I came up with. I knew for a while I wanted to do something involving bugs playing jazz, because that's such a classic kind of thing. When I was a little kid, in the I mean, I was born in '57, so by the time I'm 3, 4, 5 years old, I noticed there's a lot of TVs. I mean, a lot of TVs, a lot of old cartoons on television,
Right.
And a lot of them are really old. They're from the 30s and 40s and 50s. You get your Disney. Barbera was coming into their own then, but the thing that really fired my imagination was Max Fleischer's cartooning, and he seemed to have a lot of bugs, and there would be a lot of, they were made in the 30s. The soundtrack is swing jazz, and almost everything the bugs do in these cartoons, they'd just be dancing, they'd be bopping along, and a lot of times they wouldn't so much have dialogue. They'd kind of rap over the swing jazz. So I mean, it's pretty cool stuff. They're just doing talking blues over, and that I saw that when I was a little guy, and I'm like, that's what I want to do. I mean, I probably thought that's where I want to go. I thought I kind of, maybe I started watching as a 3 or 4. Kind of thought I could go into the TV and hang out with the bugs.
Yeah.
So it's not too surprising that I ended up wanting to draw bugs playing jazz music. Although they're all about bebop, in the period of the late 40s and early 50s rather than swing.
We I want to say earlier this year, or was it last year? Watched the Max Fleischer Superman.
Like last year.
Last year we watched the whole series of the Supermans that Max Fleischer did.
Yeah.
Those are really good. We really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I've seen those. God, it's been a long time. I probably saw a reel of those when I was in college. They put a lot of interesting film and video stuff up at UMass. Of course, back then I guess it's mostly film.
So you had Dog Boy, you said?
Yeah. During the '80s, I started publishing under the imprint Cathead Comics, and Dog Boy I created in 1982, and I did in a comic book called Guts #3, and I liked the character. He's basically I was 24, 25. It was basically me, only with a big golden retriever. And I was doing kind of improvisational stuff. So Dog Boy was just like a big doofus with a dog head running around, basically. But so I did 7 issues under Cathead Comics, and then I got Gary Groth interested. Fantagraphics picked it up, and I worked mostly with Kim Thompson, and then a series of swashbuckling assistant editors, and we did 10 issues, and it was great. At first, the first one sold 10,500, 10,600 copies, so that was great. And then, by the issue number 10, we were down around. I think it dipped under 2,000. It was like the graph looks kind of like this. So they hung in there pretty good with it. But then after that, able to sustain it financially. So I went back to publishing myself, and I got into doing Bug House. Had an anthology starting in 1990 called Buzzard, and published all different cartoonists in that. It ran 20 issues from 1990 to 1990. Artists in there, James Kolchaka was in there, and Lloyd Dangle. I don't know, all kinds of. Phoebe Gleckner was part of it. A lot of people, yeah. But I started Bug House in there, and then I'm like, oh, this needs its own book. And I did Bug House through the 90s. The whole idea part was I really was excited about the jazz transformed from swing to bebop, and I studied the history of that, and then I presented my fictional version of it with bugs, based on guys like Charlie Parker, Miles Davis, Dizzy Gillespie, Sonny Rollins, Ornette Coleman, so many others.
So you weren't using those real people as bugs. You were just using kind of their stories.
Yeah. I stole little bits from all their lives and stuck it in there. And it's a great story how the music evolves. And then there's the whole thing of a band wanting to make it. It's always interesting. I'm always more interested in how someone gets somewhere kind of cool rather than what they do once they're there.
Yeah, the journey's more exciting.
Yeah, and it's also it's about addiction. So many of the greats in jazz, rock, whatever. I mean, addiction can be such a thing in the music world.
Yeah.
And and at the time, I was in my early 30s when I was doing that work. At the time, I was knocking down like way too much beer, and I'm gonna draw a story of like addiction and explain to myself, how you can kind of like get out of this, which I did. So that was good.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, a lot of work, but
Do you have a favorite project that you worked on?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I guess, I like them all to varying degrees.
Yeah, it's like your children.
Maybe, they're different. I mean, I love Bughouse and and then in many ways, it's a very much a developmental work. And Bughouse is more of a mature piece of work. And there's 3 Bughouse graphic novels. The first one, the first couple hundred pages of it, I think maybe is some of my best work. I mean, you had mentioned earlier that you're looking at a deal possibly to package up the first 5 issues of your book, and sometimes you look back at your early work and you're like,
Yeah.
I can look at like Dog Boy pages I did in the 80s. I just want to like buy up all the copies and bury them somewhere.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, later that night, maybe I have a glass of wine or little toke, and I look at it and I'm just like, whoa, man, how did I do this?
Yeah, no, we're not the artists, so we have to. It's we can't just redraw it. It would be a major investment for us. But yeah, we look back at the first 5 issues and go, wow, this is not what we wanted it to look like.
But it's okay. It's okay. You gotta start somewhere. The important thing is, you want to make comics, then you make comics.
Yeah.
And you get better at it as you go along.
And we think we have actually gotten better at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it does work out that way. Again, it's the readers that we need to bring in, but
Yeah.
Have you done any conventions? Comic book conventions or?
Yeah. I haven't been to one for a while, but I lived in Mexico for 10 years. My wife and kids and we went down to Oaxaca, and we lived there for from 2007 to almost 2017. So it's been a while, but I first went to San Diego in '83 and made some. J.R. Williams, who's a cartoonist and painter in Portland, and R.L. Crabb, he's in Nevada City, and Leslie Sternberg, a great artist who since has passed away. And I don't know, I was going to San Diego almost every year for, I guess, 20 years or so, and had a lot of fun, sold a lot of books, made a lot of friends, made some publishing deals. I kind of there was the emerging alternative crowd that would include like Fantagraphics guys like Jaime and Gilbert Hernandez and Pete Bagg and Dan Close and Carol Lay and many others, but those guys were all around, and I'd hang out with them and many other people, and we'd stay up practically all night and just have way too much fun. That was always a part of it for whatever, quote unquote. I guess the old-fashioned term would be that's the salad days, But, yeah, I haven't been back to San Diego for a while.
Yeah, well, we've been going the last 13 years or something, but the last 2 have been virtual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And we got to be, because we publish a comic book, got to be professional, so we don't have to, we can get tickets easier and stuff. Yeah, that's the one benefit cool. So far. So far. So you just recently had a Kickstarter for
Yes.
1956 movie star. Did you have a
Yeah.
favorite? I always like to ask people, do you have a favorite tier or I guess
Yeah. Well,
reward or whatever
that's
you want to call it?
I always like to offer the most basic thing of just getting the book digitally or in print.
Mm-hmm.
So that's important, and that's like the getting the print a copy of the um, for me. It's a pretty modest Kickstarter, but I also like one thing I like a lot too is there's getting the book, and it's a 6 by 9 inch trade paperback. So I do these little. I'll grab one. Seems like I notice when I move around a lot, like I kind of freeze the thing up. So I'll just try to like grab these drawings and then not move
Okay.
so much.
All right.
But hold on. Okay, here's an example. There's a tier where I do all these like 5 by 8 drawings. And so people get a 5 by 8 like brush and ink drawing
Mm-hmm.
and a book, this time for $49. And I feel like it's a pretty good value. And I really enjoy drawing something that I think people will, get either a kick out of or a laugh out of. And they'll, get a nice little piece of artwork they can like, you know, put in there like some broom closet or something, whatever they want to do.
Well, getting original
Yeah.
artwork
And
is
then,
still special.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
that's one of the things that we were talking about our Kickstarter. They were one of the original art. So yeah, we'll have to learn how to draw. I'm kidding. You also offer one of your things was acrylic painting.
yeah,
Is that something you're known for, or
yeah,
because I think that went pretty well. So
yeah. I got 3 of those out the door, and well, not yet. I got to paint them.
you sold 3.
But yeah, that goes back to my at UMass. I got a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Painting degree, and presumably I know how to paint. So yeah, every time I make a painting, I mean, I love to paint, but I'll say like, I mean, I'm a professional cartoonist, but I'm kind of a little bit of a dilettante painter. But I'll tell you, I can get excited about it and knock off a pretty decent painting here and there.
Are the paintings going to be the characters from the book, or they're just going to be whatever you come up with?
Yeah, I figured that they would probably be characters from the book, but in the 3 people who've gotten the paintings, each of them I had a little discussion with, and you know, they told me what they'd like, and it's stuff that dovetails with what I do, and it's perfect.
Okay.
And every once in a while, I like this is interesting too. I like doing pet paintings for people. It's a real challenge because it's a responsibility. People love their pets. You're going to do a pet painting, man. You better do something good. And I've developed a technique for that that's a little bit. It's not exactly photorealist, but it is a way to. There's variations on it, but I can fairly accurately like nail that's kind of fun. So I got one of those coming up too, and that's nice to do.
So I know you have a lot of different books out there, but do you have what do you think of as an ideal reader?
That's a good question. You know, I mean, I do, I guess, what you would call art comics. By what I mean is, I'm just gonna do what I want to do, and then once I'm done with it, then I have a marketing problem to solve. And there's been the tradition I'm probably jumping off from is underground comics. By the early in my career, I was inspired by those. And like I mentioned earlier, well, I guess what was there when I started? I saw that Cerebus was there, and there was a couple other examples. But what I saw was that Last Gasp was still publishing. Fantagraphics started publishing. I had published a collection of my college strips that I was able to sell out. Well, it was a run of 500. I was able to sell it out. Now I get sidetracked. I wanted to also throw in there that I think since I grew up reading Marvels, Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko got to be figured in. But yeah, I have to market once the product's done. So I know in business, you figure out a product, you identify a market, and then you sell to that market.
Right.
Wholesale screen printing, fortunately, was good for that. you know, and so I'm going to do, you know, as a professional, you always want to do your best work. You want to represent yourself well. But yeah, the marketing to me is over time, you see what works and what doesn't. And I've seen both, Interestingly, Kickstarter is really cool because, I sold a decent amount of books to Diamond last year with a few different titles. And there's some income coming in from that, and that's good. But still, like if I sell, I probably got to sell hundreds of books through Diamond to make the same, financial sense that selling 100 books does on Kickstarter.
Right.
Because, there's no retailer and there's no distributor getting their cut there. So that's how the numbers work. The beauty of it is, I can print enough books so that then I have, some stock. And I don't know, works out pretty good. But marketing, there's different hats, different parts of it, With Kickstarter, social media, everyone thinks of and everyone works at with their Kickstarters, and it does pull. But I've known for a long time that email, old school marketing, but it pulls. If you have a list of people who know who you are and who bought from you before, that email list is gold.
Right.
And and I went to oh my God, I'm forgetting Comic Book Pro. I went and had a look at his course because I wanted to get some good tried and true tips on building the email list, and went through his steps there on building your email list, and worked out pretty good. I already had a pretty decent list, and I was able to expand it, probably another 25% just in a few months using the techniques he recommends. So that's prety cool right there.
Writing that down, Comic Book Pro. Okay. All right. And I guess we've already asked if you've read Power Squared, and you've seen our website, I guess. But
yeah, I've gone through the website, and again, I think the whole thing of the community college is really a lot of fun, and I thought the drawing and the character design in there was pretty slick too. Whoever's doing that's doing some nice work.
Yeah, well, we're happy with our current artist.
Yeah,
she's been with us since issue 5, and we're working on issue 20 at the moment. So she's been with us for a while.
Wow.
There's issue
Holy
6
moly.
on. Yeah. So.
right.
Yeah, we're really slow to put them out, but we're making a lot of them. So, all right. So
Yeah.
how would people find you on the internet?
Yeah, well, it's fairly easy. Just stevelafler.com. So that's how to find me. The trick about that is the last name is Lafler, and because it's a slightly unusual name with a G, but give them a few tries, I'll get it.
Okay. We'll put that in the.
Also, people can find me at Instagram and Facebook too. I'm trying to do enough social media there to kind of stay in touch with friends and readers. And when I did reconnect with Diamond last year, and I shipped 3 books. I shipped 1956 book 1, Sweet Sweet Little Ramona, Death Plays a Mean Harmonica, which is my graphic novel set in Oaxaca. It's kind of like my fictionalization of living in Oaxaca. And I also reissued the first Bughouse book 1, the first of the trilogy. So yeah, 3 books to Diamond last year. So presumably people can go to an alternative or indie or underground friendly comic book shop and say, do you have a Bughouse? Do you have this one? Do you have that one? Do you carry Lafler's books? And they'll probably go, who? If they're really old, they'll probably know who I am.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you being on the show.
Yes. If you are watching this on YouTube later and you like this, consider leaving a like, subscribe, and ring that bell if you want to see when these go up.
Okay. Well, thanks again for being on the show. So, I'm David.
Thanks for having me, you guys. It's
right.
nice to meet you and talk with you.
Good. So, until next time, I'm David Hankins.
I'm Paul Hankins.
And you've been on the air with Power Squared.